And welcome back to Love Your Food. This week we are doing a delicious and rich classic lasagna. This is a meat sauce lasagna. This is sort of a basic version, really delicious, incredibly rich. We'd also like to remind everyone that we have an affiliate link with Chef's Temp. If you need a kitchen thermometer, please click the link in the description below. If you use the code LOVEYOURFOOD on checkout, then you'll get 15% off your order. In the meantime, let's get going with our ingredients for this beautiful lasagna. So we've got our lasagna pasta sheets here, some tomato sauce, a little bit of fennel seed, some garlic, some eggs, some Parmesan cheese, some ricotta cheese, and some mozzarella cheese. So 3 kinds of cheese in this. Some parsley. We've got some fresh parsley, some fresh thyme, some fresh rosemary, and some fresh oregano. As well as a mix of both beef and pork. Now we're using ground beef and ground pork for this. And that's going to get mixed into our tomato sauce. Now, first thing we're going to do is a little bit of mise en place. So we're going to chop up some of these herbs, and we're going to make them pretty fine. And this is to flavor the meat. So we're going to get this pretty finely chopped here. For the fennel seeds, we're going to give these just a light chop. We just basically want to crack the shells a little bit on these seeds. And we're going to toast these just a little bit before we add them to our meat. So there we go. We don't need to chop them finely. We don't necessarily want to grind them into a powder or anything. For the garlic, we can do a pretty rough chop. Again, this is all going to get cooked down, so it doesn't need to look great. It's going to be added to the sauce in the form of the meat, so don't worry about making it look super accurate or pretty or anything. We just want it chopped pretty small. So there we go, there's our garlic ready. After that, we are going to move on to toasting our fennel seeds. And we're just going to put that in a dry pan just for a very short period of time until it just gets that nice, slightly toasty aroma. And then in goes our ground pork. Now we're going to cook the ground meats in basically in batches. So we've got the pork here, we're going to do the beef a little bit later. The beef we got was actually very lean. So we're going to use a little bit of the fat from this pork. You can see it's quite fatty. We're going to use a little bit of the fat from the pork to sort of help the beef cook a little nicer. Definitely want to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of black pepper. And we just want to get this meat nice and browned. In the meantime, we have the tomato sauce already done. It was a homemade sauce. We're not going to go through the making of the whole sauce. I'll put a card up to our recipe for tomato sauce. We've done that before, and we'll show you how to do that. In goes about half of the garlic and half of the herbs, because the rest is going to go in with the beef. Now, do remember to reserve a small amount of the sauce without adding meat to it, because you want a little tiny bit at the bottom of your dish, your casserole dish, whatever you're cooking this in. A little bit more mise en place. So we're chopping the parsley here. This is for the filling. This is for the ricotta filling between the layers of noodles and meat sauce. So in goes the parsley. We're just putting that in a bowl here. And then we're going to grate our mozzarella. Now, the mozzarella is going to be used in 2 places. It's going to be used on top, of course, but it's also going to be used in that filling with the ricotta. So we're going to be mixing the ricotta, the Parmesan, and most of the mozzarella here together, along with the parsley and a couple of eggs. And that's going to be the filling. That's going to be the cheese filling in between the layers. So there's our ricotta. Our eggs, minus the shells, if at all possible. And then that little nub of Parmesan cheese, we're going to grate the whole thing in there, as much as we can possibly get out of it. You can see it's quite fluffy. A little bit of black pepper. Now, the Parmesan is very salty, so we don't need to add any salt to this at all. We certainly don't. But next, we're just going to mix this all together. So you're going to break up that ricotta, get those eggs mixed in until it sort of makes this kind of scrambled paste sort of thing. And this is going to be the filling. Lots of nice flavors in there. So we've got the mozzarella, we've got the ricotta, we've got the parmesan, the eggs, the black pepper, and all that nice chopped parsley. In the meantime, we have our pork. That's looking really nice. We've got a little bit more of the garlic. And in goes our beef. And like I said, this beef was actually really, really lean. So we did need a little bit of that pork fat from the ground pork. So we're going to get that into the pan. A little bit of struggle with the packaging there. We're just going to break that up. It's really, really fine ground. You can use whatever, form of ground beef you prefer. Again, a little bit of black pepper on top. We're also going to add a little bit of salt. And this is going to, again, we just want a little bit of browning on this. Now, if it's something quite fine like this, you do want to make sure that you're continuing to break it up, because you don't want big panels of meat in there. You just want sort of little pieces of beef. We're going to flip that over so that the side with the salt and pepper gets a little more color immediately. And you can see here we've got some nice color on the beef. We sort of broke the beef up into 2 portions here. The pork was already done. We've got that set aside. And this is looking great. This is about exactly where we want it. So in goes our meat to our tomato sauce. Now the tomato sauce doesn't have any meat in it yet, so this is just adding that beautifully browned beef and pork into there. You want to watch out you're not using a flavor profile that makes it taste really like breakfast sausagey. So keep an eye on your keep an eye on your flavor profile here. In goes the other part of the beef. And tomato sauce is super dead easy. We cooked this one for a long time, so it was a pretty low moisture content by the time we got to it. And in goes our pork as well. And then we're just going to give that a stir until it's all nicely combined. We've got that nice Bolognese kind of sauce, the meat sauce with the rich tomato. And you do want to make sure that you have enough liquid in there, because the lasagna noodles are going to cook in the dish. We're not going to cook those in advance. We're not going to boil them. We're just going to put them in dry. And we're going to cook this for a long, long time. So that will really allow those noodles to cook. So here's that little bit that I said that we wanted to reserve. Now we've buttered the dish. So we're going to add the little bit of tomato sauce without the meat on the bottom, just to sort of make sure everything stays in place, and to add a bit of space on the bottom, a little bit of moisture on the bottom for those noodles to soak up. And then a really easy way to do this, you have your dry noodles, just add that nice sort of cheese mixture to those, and it'll stay on there, and then you can just layer it really, really nicely. It's going to help you keep everything together. And typically on this size dish, it's going to be about 4 lasagna noodles across. It doesn't go all the way to the ends. That's fine. We're going to put a little bit of sauce on the ends just to make sure that everything's covered and we don't get any dry ends of pasta. So we put that layer of the ricotta mixture, another layer of the meat sauce, and then we're going to repeat that again one more time with another layer of the ricotta on the dry pasta. And we're going to use all of this. We're going to use all of the cheese mixture and all of that meat sauce. And this is a huge dish, honestly. It's incredibly rich, very, very dense, lots of food. This made about 10 servings, and they're incredibly filling, just a lot of food. So one more layer of the meat sauce on top here. And then on top of that, we're just going to put one layer of just plain noodles, no cheese on them, just the plain noodles. And that's going to go in there on top. And on top of that is the last of the meat sauce. So we just want to get that on top. Again, I mean, it's just for that texture of the noodles holding everything together. Now you can see how dense how dense and how low moisture our meat sauce is. This sort of helps it all stay together. If it's much more moist than this, you end up with a sort of a runny sauce when everything's cooked. But the way this came out was really, really nice. It all held together pretty nicely. So we want to get all of that nice meat sauce. That's the last of the meat sauce on top. And then on top of that, of course, we're going to add the remainder of the mozzarella cheese. And this you could add, it can be as thick as you like it. You can make it as cheesy as you want. Now remember, there's also cheese in the middle. And then on top of that, we are going to put a layer of aluminum foil. We're going to make that, we're going to cover that. We want to make sure that it bakes first before it starts to brown. So we're going to give it a good cover. And then that's going to go into our oven at the middle rack. And we're going to put it on a tray just in case. We want to make sure that it doesn't overflow or anything. And that's going to go in for a good long time. Honestly, that cooks for about 50 minutes. And that really helps to allow the noodles to cook in the sauce. And they will nicely soften up. So after 50 minutes, we're going to take that aluminum foil off. Very carefully, because it is extremely hot in there. Now, the aluminum foil is not too bad, but you definitely don't want to get hit by that steam. And you can see it bubbling up the sides. The cheese is nicely melted, but it's not browned or anything yet. So we're going to put that back in the oven at the same temperature for another about 10 minutes. And if after 10 minutes you feel like it's not browned enough, what we did, and what you can certainly do, is put that under the broiler for 5 minutes. It really doesn't need much time, and you get that beautiful brown coating on the top. The cheese gets nice and brown. You get that amazing texture, and there you go. So that's after it has been under the broiler for just a short little time. So nice crispy cheese on top. Again, it is still bubbling up the sides. You definitely want to let that rest for a while before you cut into it. It is incredibly hot. So once we've had that rest and sit down for a little while, we are going to try and get a piece out. And the noodles are beautiful. They're a little al dente, which is perfect for us. We don't want them to be mushy. We don't want them to be undercooked. They came out absolutely perfect for us. You might need to cut through the cheese a couple of times because it's going to flow back together. And there you go. It mostly came out together. And it really held together nicely, especially once it was cooled. Leftovers for days, absolutely delicious, really, really good, and just incredibly filling. Like, you want to eat more, but it's a lot of food. But no, we do highly recommend that you keep this in smaller portions because it's really, really dense. If you like this recipe, please do like and subscribe. And if you have any recipes you'd like to see Chef Caleb try on the channel, please let us know in the comments below. We'd like to thank our patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to help to support the channel there, I'll put a link in the description below. And remember to love your food.